When Metal Gear launched back in 1987, gaming conventions were turned over their heads. Where most games in its time would encourage players to annihilate their enemies with reckless abandon, Metal Gear did the opposite by encouraging players to hide and run away from them. It was a gamble that few believed would pay off, but the game was a success, leading to the creation of its sequel, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. The result was a game that improved on every aspect where its predecessor fell short. Immediately after booting up the game, the first improvement that I noticed was the presentation. Awesome new music and improved graphics aside, Metal Gear 2 makes a great first impression through its cinematic intro cutscene, providing important backstory before so much as pushing a button. The year is 1999, 4 years since the Outer Heaven Uprising, a time of peace and stability, and a time in which the threat of nuclear war is a thing of the past. But that peace is threatened by a military force that came to power in a small independent fictional nation in Central Asia called Zanzibar Land. Not long after the fictional historical event known as the Mercenary War, Zanzibar Land's War of Independence, the small nation began attacking nuclear weapons disposal sites around the world to acquire nuclear weapons of their own. Making matters worse, Zanzibar Land also kidnapped Czech scientist Dr. Kio Marv, creator of a new species of algae known as oilix that can essentially produce unlimited quantities of oil. To stop Zanzibar Land from holding the world hostage with the threat of nuclear weapons and total control of oil supplies, Solid Snake is brought out of retirement by Foxhound's new commander, Roy Campbell, to infiltrate Zanzibar Land, rescue Dr. Marv, and eradicate the nuclear threats. Along the way, players will meet new and interesting characters, as well as witness familiar faces make a pleasantly surprising return, some of whose allegiances have shifted. What could have been a stereotypical destroy weapon of mass destruction story ended up being something memorable and thought-provoking thanks to its focus on gray topics like what it means to be a soldier and the effects that world peace has on shunned soldiers who have only known fighting, war, and conflict for all their lives. I found Big Boss in particular to be a rather complex character. His methods may be psychotic at best, but he has also helped and saved countless lives where others turned a blind eye. By the end of the game, I was surprised to find myself having mixed feelings about his character. Equally gripping as its story is Metal Gear 2's gameplay, which blows its predecessor out of the water thanks to a number of new additions. For the first time, Snake can crouch and crawl. This may seem like a minor addition, but the feature not only allows players to move more silently in areas with noisy surfaces, but also to hide underneath the game's various crawl spaces to evade enemy patrol, adding some much-needed depth to the stealth mechanics. Speaking of noisy surfaces, Metal Gear 2 for the first time allows players to knock on walls to lure guards, a mechanic that clever players will find quite handy. Another important new addition is the alert timer. In Metal Gear 1, the only way to end the alert status was by either killing everyone in the current map grid or by running away to a different grid, and if all else failed, by running to the elevator. Ironically, hiding and staying out of sight was not an option for the stealth game. Fortunately, the entire system has been reworked in Metal Gear 2. Now, when players are detected, an alert timer will indicate how long players have to stay out of enemy sight before guards stop searching. This is where the ability to crawl into narrow spaces can come in handy. While killing everyone is still an option, players now at least have the option to take a stealthier approach. Further adding to Metal Gear 2's stealth experience is a smarter AI. Instead of seeing in a straight line, guards now have a 45 degrees range of vision, which adds a significant amount of difficulty to stealth, making sneaking around the game world all the more thrilling. Furthermore, when players are detected, guards no longer just run around and shoot like chickens without their heads. They are now much more coordinated, flanking Snake whenever possible and using their numbers to their advantage. And when players finally manage to hide, guards will actively search Snake's last known position until the timer runs out. In my experience, Zanzibar Land's guards actually felt dangerous. Well, at least they did until I discovered an exploit that allowed me to make quick work of guards after detection. I won't talk too much about it in this review, but suffice to say that it can potentially ruin the sense of tension and danger that comes from being detected, making me wish that such a simple exploit would have been patched by the developers. Perhaps the most important addition to Metal Gear 2 is the 9 grids map system and the addition of a radar. In Metal Gear 1, only the grid in which the player resided would be active at a given time, while the rest of the grids would be in an inactive state in which guards and objects would respawn and reset to their predefined positions. But in Metal Gear 2, the number of active grids has been increased to 9, which are arranged in a 3x3 structure. Players can only see the grid in which they are currently in, but a mini-map of the 8 grids surrounding the player is constantly displayed on the radar. With 9 active grids at a time, guards can for the first time move in and out between grids, making their movement patterns much more varied and unpredictable. To balance this out, the radar will show players the position of every guard around their immediate vicinity, represented by dots. Whereas Metal Gear 1 stealth mechanics revolved around sneaking past soldiers in the immediate grid, Metal Gear 2 takes it to the next level by adding the extra layer of having to watch out for guards approaching from adjacent grids as well. Alongside these new gameplay additions, a number of improvements have been made to returning gameplay elements as well. For example, Metal Gear 2 almost completely gets rid of the guesswork found in Metal Gear 1's world design, like blowing up random walls or having to call a random codec frequency to open a random door with a key item. As long as players use the codec often, take the time to talk to the children scattered around Zanzibar land, and pay attention to all the provided information, they will have everything they need to get through Zanzibar land's intricate and well-designed game world and finish the game without a hitch. It's a great balance in which the game doesn't hold your hand, but at the same time doesn't leave you stranded without any sort of coherent direction. Metal Gear 2 also alleviates the tedious keycard sorting found in Metal Gear 1 by allowing players to find master keycards that act as 3 cards in one. There is one for doors with security levels 1 through 3, one for levels 4 through 6, and one for levels 6 through 9. It doesn't completely get rid of the problem, but it's a start. Finally, boss battles are much improved this time around. I still found them to be a bit too easy, but at least they are much more creative and varied than the somewhat bland bosses from Metal Gear 1. With all said and done, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake is everything a sequel should be. It retains the core elements that made players fall in love with its prequel, while adding and improving elements that evolve the franchise to new heights. With an awesome presentation, a memorable story, and gameplay that has been significantly improved on every front, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake might be one of the best 8-bit games I've ever played. That is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't done so yet, for more of my reviews, be sure to join the NASIAN and subscribe to Yong. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Yong out.